All right, welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to talk about Canelo Alvarez, Terence Crawford, and offers being made to them or supposedly being made to them by the PBC, which hopefully, and this is my hope, could result in a monopoly in boxing. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. Before we get into the subject matter of the video though, please make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you're not already subscribed, there's a subscribe button right down below the screen. Also, like the video, share the video, it would be greatly appreciated because it really does help the channel grow. So let's get into this. Before I get in deep into the subject matter of this, I have to tell you that I believe that there's a lot of problems in boxing and with fights not being made. And we have a lot of tremendous boxers in the boxing world. Lots of tremendous boxers in the boxing world from all kind of different weight classes. And if there was some way that they would all be in the same place and able to fight each other, I think that boxing would take its place as one of the top couple sports in the world again. However, we don't live in that situation. We have a situation in boxing where everything is divided. In the United States, which is the hub of boxing, you have you have Top Rank, you have Golden Boy, you have DAZN and Matchroom, you have the PBC. But if you look at it carefully, as far as like the number of networks that are distributing boxing at least in the United States, right? I'm talking about in the United States, which is the hub for the international boxing scene. All of the big fights that take place come into the United States. They have a split between the networks where you have ESPN, you have DAZN, you have Fox, and then you have Showtime. The PBC has two of those networks, and the other two are divided up, right? But if there was some way that those could come together, I think you would really make great fights. And something that I'm seeing happening in the sport right now, I think is getting it to me moving closer and closer to one of those parties really taking over. And I think that is, and I've been saying that this is the case, I believe that is the PBC. And the things that I'm seeing that are taking place is that Canelo Alvarez right now is in negotiations with the PBC for a fight with Caleb Plant, and Terence Crawford's co-manager said in a statement that he has one fight left with ESP with Top Rank, and then after that they were going to be able to go over to the PBC as a free agent and then get access to those elite fighters, which is obviously a case where the PBC has two big puzzle pieces to the puzzle. Canelo Alvarez is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest star in boxing. That will be tested when he's back on pay-per-view with this fight with Caleb Plant, which people keep saying is very, very close to taking place. And the welterweight scene and all the belts in the welterweight division would be locked up with Terence Crawford if Terence Crawford were to come over to the PBC. Now, this is, I think, something that most likely will happen. If you look at Canelo Alvarez in what he's going to do in the future, Canelo Alvarez, oh, by the way, Canelo Alvarez is also wanted specifically by Showtime, that said that they would like to see him fight Jermall Charlo and David Benavidez. The thing with Canelo Alvarez is where Canelo Alvarez is at DAZN, there's not a lot of room for growth for him, and there's really been, I think, a decline in his star status since he's been over there at DAZN, because the way the DAZN is working, and they made this bet that they could essentially kill pay-per-view by having having a lot of money, having the big stars over on DAZN, and then having DAZN pay fees to them right? And that's how they would be funding it, pretty much just out of the pocket of DAZN and through the subscriptions that DAZN would get from fight fans. Well, that really didn't work, and it wound up just being a house for in the United States where it's pretty much just you have maybe 3 or 4 big name fighters in that, well, really 2 big name fighters, 3 if you call like up and coming fighters. Like, well, the big name fighters that I'm talking about are Canelo Alvarez and Gennady Golovkin. I guess you can consider Anthony Joshua one as well. So then Anthony Joshua, but then after that you have Devin Haney, who's an up and coming star. I would not say that Devin Haney has really reached his star status yet. I think that he's on his way there and is doing his best to be there, but he's not quite there yet. But he's obviously a tremendous talent. So there's really not much on DAZN, and Canelo has had a bunch of subpar fights that really, come on, like, who really cares other than the Daniel Jacobs fight? What kind of fight has he had over there? We've had the Sergey Kovalev fight. You had a Yeldemir fight. You've had a Callum Smith fight, and you have a Rocky Fielding fight. That's not really doing anything to grow Canelo Alvarez's fan base, and it's not growing the amount of money that he can make. He's set on how much money he's going to make for every fight, and there's not been any growth to it. Where if he was on regular pay-per-view and growing his status fighting Americans, like American stars, then his name could grow. But they pretty much stopped him right where he was when he became, quote unquote, the biggest star in boxing. But the biggest star in boxing, he became that by default because Floyd Mayweather Jr. retired, and then when he did that, Manny Pacquiao kind of fell off. So Canelo Alvarez, it makes sense for Canelo Alvarez to come and fight American fighters like Caleb Plant, to fight Jamal Charlo, to fight the other guys that are around there if he was successful beating them or have rematches. And then, of course, Terence Crawford, he's saying, what's going on with him in Top Rank is just no who cares fight after who cares fight after who cares fight. But if the PBC is able to get those 2 fights, lock up 147 pounds, lock up 100, I think that would pretty much lock up 160 pounds if they could convince, or 168 pounds if Jamal Charlo moves up, then I think we're getting closer to where we need to be. Because like a lot of people talk about how you solve the problems in boxing, I think that you need the most practical way, the best way, it would probably be to have a international governing body just have one champion and administer it, and with just one champion, so that everybody has to be in the same sanctioning body and have to really compete to be in the rankings, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Like tennis, in order to be ranked top 10, you have to beat a lot of people to be ranked top 10. You don't get ranked top 10 just because somebody sitting in a boardroom has a feeling that you deserve to be there, right? So the best way to solve the problem would be that. But the most practical way in the society that we have is for one of these boxing organizations to really just get a monopoly on it, so that everybody is in-house, and then you can have a bunch of in-house fights, because you don't have promotional companies, different promotional companies vying for a piece of the money. So hopefully if these guys sign over there, then that would give even more people to say, oh man, PBC is really taking over. Let's move over and go over to PBC or sign with PBC so you can be part of it. That's what I think I would like to see happen. And also the PBC they make their in-house, when they're making fights, they make fights. Like you saw that with the 154-pound division, and they were not afraid to make tough fights and have a fighter lose, but yet still promote that fighter and bring them back. So anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.